to enter the promised land. Right? Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, they tore their clothes, and they said to the entire Israelite assembly, "Tearing your clothes is a sign of grief and sadness and being overcome." They tore their clothes at what little faith the people had. They tore their clothes with how little they thought of God. What a small image they had of God. What a small amount of belief they had in God. And Caleb is there with Joshua and Moses and Aaron tearing his clothes and in grief. And now he is weeping. He's sitting there saying, "Lord, I just don't understand. You have done everything." This is not a group of people that have never seen God. This is the group of people that saw him part the Red Sea. This is the group of people that saw him send the plagues. This is the group of people that saw him lead them by day in the cloud and in the pillar of fire at night. This is the group of people that saw all those things. This is the group of people that saw miracle after miracle after miracle. We're thirsty. I'm going to hit a rock and bring water out. How many times do you have to hit a rock before water comes out? There's a great Sunday afternoon project. Let me know tonight how it turns out. They saw how big God was. And yet they still had no faith. And Caleb is at the point of just being overcome. He rips his clothes and he cries, him and Moses and Aaron and Joshua. And they're sitting there saying, "I just don't understand, Lord. You have shown them and shown them and shown them and shown them." I'm here to tell you that so many of you have more faith. More faith in a God that you've never laid eyes on than they did in a God that showed them himself every time. In miracle after miracle after miracle. And you just want to sit there and scream at them. And how the Lord doesn't just destroy them, I don't know. But he's sitting there saying, "What more do you want from me? I have done all these things and still you will not follow." The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. And if the Lord is pleased with us, this is Caleb now talking to the people again. Caleb, in front of the whole assembly, rips his clothes, crying, on the ground, weeping, and he stands up and he says, I got to try it again. And he stands up to make another speech to the people, and he says this: "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good." This land that God said he's going to give to us is so good. It is better than any land you've ever seen. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land. God will lead us. We don't have to lead him. God will go before us, and he will give us this land. He will. And Caleb talking to the people, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And he will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord. You're rebelling again. Again you're sitting here rebelling. Again you're doubting and questioning. Again he's saying, "Go up into this land," and we're saying, "No, we won't. Go take this land, my people. I'm giving it to you." "No, we're too scared." "Go, I'm giving it to you." "No, we won't do it." And they are rebelling against the Lord because of their fear. And you have Caleb and Joshua, Moses and Aaron. These guys are pleading with them. 4 people pleading with the nation, sitting here saying, "Go, come on. He's giving it to us. If we'll just go." And they can't get him to go. They can't get him to follow. Their fear's too great. They stand on the edge of the ice looking out over it, and they sit there and say, "My fear's too great." And they take off their skates and they go and turn again. And they're missing what could have been because they let fear grab hold. Because their fear was so great. And their faith was so small. It's that same concept. Only do not rebel against the Lord. Do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Caleb says, not only are we going to defeat them, we're going to crush them. It's not even going to be a fight. Caleb believes so strongly that God is going to give them this land. He's sitting there. It's not like we're going to go up and half of us are going to die, guys. We're going to go and take that land and we're going to devour them. There is going to be no fight in this because God is on our side. It is going to be absolutely one-sided. Because greater is our God than anything else we face. Right? Their protection is gone. They have nothing. What in the world are you going to do to stand against God? They cannot stand against Him. They have no protection. What in the world is their wall going to do against our God? Nothing. The creator of the whole universe is going to sit here and say, oh my, they piled up some rocks. How ridiculous is that? Their God is so much bigger, right? Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. Boom, jump ahead. All these thousands of years. Isn't one of our great struggles today that we are so afraid of what other people think? Because we're not worried about what God thinks. We fear their opinions so much because we fear His opinion so little. And we have it backwards still. At the end of the day, all that matters, and I believe this, guys. I don't always live it, but I do believe it. At the end of the day, be right with Him. Everything else takes care of itself. At the end of the day, I've lived for Him that day. Everything else takes care of itself. We worry so much about what these people think of us, what these people say about us. Stop. Quit worrying about it. And just be right with Him. That's what Caleb's saying right here. What in the world? You're going to worry and be afraid of the person who can kill your body? What about the one who holds your very soul in their hand? Why would you not be concerned with Him? Right? But the whole assembly talked about stoning them. And so Caleb stands up and makes this speech, and they're ready to stone him. Because do you understand that what is right is very rarely what is popular? Then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. Is that in that passage, guys? Good. Flip on to our next passage if you don't mind, please. Now, in between where we stopped and here, the Lord comes to Moses and says, I'm going to destroy the whole people. I'm ready. I'm just going to wipe them out. And Moses falls on his face before the Lord and begs Him not to destroy the people. Begs Him not to destroy the Israelites. Begs Him to forgive them. And yes, they're so weak, God, but please forgive them. Right? And he appeals to God through the idea of, well, what are the Egyptians going to say? That you delivered the people from Egypt, but you couldn't take them into the promised land. And basically, he just sits there and he appeals to God, and God says, okay, Moses, because of my love for you, I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to forgive them. But do you understand that with sin, there is forgiveness? And that's beautiful, right? But with sin, there's always consequence. Don't miss that idea. That when I sin, there is forgiveness for me, which is the most incredible thing ever. But just because I have forgiveness doesn't erase the fact that there will be consequences. And now they're going to face the consequences of it, right? The Lord replied, I have forgiven them as you asked. Nevertheless, as surely as I live, and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of those who saw my glory and the signs I performed in Egypt and the wilderness, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their ancestors. Moses, I will forgive them, and I'm going to let them live. I'm not going to destroy them, as we just talked about, that here is the consequence because of their sin. Not one of those people that ever saw me do all those miracles down in Egypt, not one of them is going to enter the promised land. Because I brought them up and I brought them to the edge of the promised land and I said, enter and I will lead you, and they said no. I said, enter it and I will lead you, and they said no. I said, go in and I am with you, and they said no. And they 10 times looked at me and said, we will not follow you, God. We don't believe enough. We don't trust enough. We don't think you're big enough. And God says, 10 times they tested me, and they're not going to see the land that I promised them. There's the consequence for their sin. And God says, 10 times they did that. Not one of them will ever see the land I promised. No one who has treated me with contempt will see it. But because my servant Caleb, I'm not being silly. If you're going to have a son, here's another thing about naming them. Look at the name Caleb in Scripture. This is a beautiful picture. Right? We already know that he was chosen to explore the land. We already know that he stood up in front of the whole Israelite assembly at least twice and made a proclamation of faith that our God's bigger than our enemy. And 2 different times he tried to say, let's follow God and go into the promised land. 2 different times he was ready to lead the people into the promised land and says, if God says this, guys, he's going to do it. Now listen to what, this isn't the words of Moses. This isn't the words of one of the prophets. This is the words of God. This is a God quote in the Scripture. Listen to what it says though. But because my servant, Caleb, has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land he went to, and his descendants will inherit it. Put your name here. Put your name here and tell me if you don't crave as a Christian to have that to be said of you. Because my servant Lydia has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly. Because my servant Deborah has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly. Because my servant Machias has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly. Wouldn't it be amazing for that to be said of you, not by man, not by people, but by the Lord himself? My servant Michael, he has a different spirit. And he follows me wholeheartedly. And you get the picture of a dad bragging about his kid. You ever heard the dads brag about their kid? It's a different level here. I'll sit there and I'll watch a game. After the game, the dad will tell me about all the things his kid did, and I'm like, were we watching the same game? But he runs it through a different filter. It's done through a different vision, a different set of eyes, a different perspective. This is the Lord looking down, and he is so pleased with Caleb because he saw Caleb stand up. He saw Caleb have at least 2 stand-up moments. And God says, Caleb's got a different spirit. And he follows me wholeheartedly. And because he does, I'm going to give him what I promised to give him. I'm going to give him an inheritance. I'm going to give him the land he explored, and then I'm going to give it to his descendants after him. Not only am I going to bless him, I'm going to bless those that come after him. Beautiful picture, right? Can you get us our next slide, please, Tom? And we're now in Joshua?
Yes.
We're now in Joshua. So, the Lord made this promise, right? The Lord made the promise. And we're going to put together a timeline before we're done today of what this promise looked like. The Lord gave a promise, right? And he said that the people of Israel, you're going to wander around the wilderness for the next 40 years. That Joshua and Caleb, the 2 of you are going to enter the promised land. And I am going to give you an inheritance there. I am going to have you enter the promised land because while the 10 were bad, you were the 2 that were good. While the 10 sat there and said, oh, no, let's fear. The 2 of you sat there and said, no, God's big enough, let's go. Right? Now they're ready. 40 years have passed. They've wandered around the desert. God has given them manna. He's given them quail. He has done miracle after miracle. He's sent water out of rocks. He's done all these kinds of things. Countless times in the desert over the last 40 years. And now it's time actually for them to go in again. And this time they're going to do it. Because it's a whole new generation of people. The only people that were there when they had all those miracles that were grown-ups back then were Joshua and Caleb, right? And Moses, right? And now they're coming out. They're ready to enter the promised land again. Now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal. And Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, said to him, you know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh to explore the land. And I brought him back a report according to my convictions, but my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day, Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Keep this slide up for a second. Go back one. Wholeheartedly. So how old was Caleb when he went to explore the land? He was 40 years old. Keep that number in your head. 40 years old. How close are you to 40, Mr. Beery? Very close. He's hearing it at his doorstep. 40 is coming for him, right? 40 years old. So basically, Herzog Jr., have you just turned 40? Oh, okay. So when you're talking 40, you're talking Herzog Jr.